Welcome everyone to our VWEC podcast station. Today we are with Spiff and Elli. That's Andrew Wheelock and Becky Adams. And Spiff is going to interview Elli. So Spiff, take it away.
Thanks, Val. Great to be with you for our second podcast, and really an inspirational virtual pioneer or leader, but also a leader in the real world as well, and that is Elli Pinion and real world Becky Adams. And a little bit about Becky, and I want her to kind of fill in the blanks here as I kind of just give a little bit of her background. Becky is retired from the University of New Mexico as the Director of Online Course Development and Faculty Support she did that for 13 years. She also taught for Albuquerque Public Schools for 11 years, served on the New Mexico Learning Network statewide initiative as chair for best practice, and is a Quality Matters Master Reviewer. Wow, lots there. You also Becky taught 16 years of the College of Education teacher education and human sciences, as well as organization, information, and learning science. A lot there. And I'm going to just stop there because it seems like we can maybe ask you a little bit more to fill in those blanks. But you're also your PhD is in curriculum and instruction from New Mexico State University, specializing in instructional technologies. So Becky, Elli, we'll stick with Elli, your Second Life name. Let me just finish with this last piece, which is you are part of the Virtual Worlds and Education community and the Virtual Worlds Education Consortium, and you've been one of the primary leaders, along with Val, in that initiative. So with that, I know that was a lot in a very short period of time, but Elli, can you just start us off and tell us your virtual world education journey? We learned a little bit about your real world journey, but tell us about virtual worlds. How did you get started? And what were the inspirations, and what are some of the works you're doing now in virtual worlds?
Well, thank you, Spiff and Val. I'm really honored to be here. I actually started in virtual worlds back in the day, like you guys. Quite by accident. I was working with a statewide initiative in teaching teachers how to use technology while I was at the University of New Mexico. And someone had been in Second Life and was showing us on a big screen and telling us all about it because they were trying to introduce us to as many technologies as they could as we were trying to teach them. And I thought it was a little weird. And she was she had her avatar in, but we were just watching her. She was standing on this lovely ledge overlooking the ocean similar to what we are. And then this person bumped into her, and it seemed very shocking. And she was saying, "Oh, that's just a new person. You guys can really relate to this. Don't be upset." And I just thought it was just stupid, as did everybody that I was hanging out with. And then I went back to my real job the next week, and my boss was a part of the New Media Consortium, and they were talking about Second Life. So one of my designers and I, who worked for me, decided we would pop in and just see what it was about. And we stumbled around, and my favorite joke is I got stuck in a bush and I didn't know how to TP or look over for a chair. And so literally we spent 30 minutes trying to get out of a bush. And then I also dropped my hair on the ground. And it was laying in front of me. I doubt many people have done that. And I was sure that someone would see that I'd messed up there or whatever that I was at. So my first experience was not, oh my gosh, this is the best thing I've ever seen. I just thought it was super awkward and weird. And I wasn't a gamer at the time, and I did not see necessarily the benefits. But I was the director, as you said, for online course design. And we were really trying to help people and our students get a good experience with online learning. in their college work. And so we were constantly looking for better things. And that same designer, her name was Jane, and I went to a concert in Second Life, and we sat by this young woman as avatars and listened to this beautiful orchestra that I believe was at Ohio State, that was giving this really interesting concert here in Second Life. And the young woman was telling us that her mother was playing the cello, and that she was sitting in New York City. So her mom was at Ohio State, she was sitting in New York City, Jane and I were in New Mexico. And of course, that online course um, betterment gene that I have kicked in, and both my designer and I were just hooked, because if we could bring people together, and we also felt like we were at a concert. So that's my beginnings, and we kept coming in, we kept trying things, and I have been teaching in here for many, many years. And the feedback that my students have given me, as a matter of fact, one class I taught, I was giving them the option of using web conferencing, which of course is now Zoom, and or coming into Second Life. And my students, we would alternate every week, and then they knew that they were going to have to teach a lesson, and I gave them the choice of where they would like to be, and they were ridiculing, they were laughing at virtual worlds, but every single one of them, even the ones that kept saying it was stupid, along with me, I was not telling them that anymore, um, chose Second Life. And the reason they did was because they felt like they were sitting next to each other, just like you and I do today. So it made a big difference for our online students to feel less like they were separated, which they did feel that way in web conferencing, and more like they were actually with their colleagues and the other students in the class. So that is my journey, and I kind of wasn't as active for a little while, but once I started teaching in here again, I actually teach a class for the OI and LS program about virtual worlds. Then I got very excited and very energized and started joining lots of groups and meeting lots of educators. That's my journey.
That sounds fun, and it was interesting that you said that because I too, when I first came in here, really didn't get it. But then when I came to history Sims, I was like, ah, here we go. This is interesting. So history is what captured me here in Second Life, and I've been here ever since, of course. So it's interesting that you started off same thing, kind of scratching our heads a little bit. What is this all about? But I think once we
Exactly.
saw that potential, and I think your awakening came because of your students. Am I right with that?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, when they were telling me how much better they felt, it absolutely changed my mind.
Okay, so let's transition now as we kind of walk through your kind of real world and Second Life journey. We came across the Virtual Worlds Education Consortium, which has been, I think, an amazing success story because I think you've not only of your energy and Val's energy, but the team that you've built around this. Can you just tell us about VWEC and maybe its origins or its genesis, and describe the successes that have been part of VWEC and also the challenges and your vision for the future? I know it's a really big question, but see what you can do with all that.
Oh, sure. Well, thank you. VWEC is such an interesting story. It started with a conversation between a colleague and I had been part of VWBPE, which I know many of you guys are, and we had just so enjoyed the conference and the opportunity to see other educators and hear from experts. Get a chance to talk to Linden Labs. The conferences are just so phenomenal. And this colleague and I, it was after a conference, and we were chatting, and she was very interested in knowing who other educators are in here. And that just really clicked with me because I was saying the same thing. I was thinking, I know we see them at the conference, but then I have a couple of groups that I go to, and I had joined every education group I could find, and was just making great friends. But I just felt like that we knew that there were so many more people out there. And so we had this lovely conversation. Another piece of it was that we often talked to Linden Labs, and we kept asking them for things. And I know that people in other virtual worlds are having the same situation where they're working with the developers for things that they need, and the developers ask them for things, but then you don't often see anything very quickly change. And so we had those two things in mind: getting together with other educators and hearing their stories and helping support them and learn things ourselves, as well as seeing if we could fix some problems, if there were some problems that people were having, because they keep asking us, what do you need? And immediately we said, oh, we have to get Val involved, because Val is like the networker and definitely the most interesting educator that I know. And so the three of us started talking about, well, how would we do this? And we just decided that we knew that everybody was extremely busy, because everyone I know has usually a job and then another thing that they love, a group or something that they're working hard on, and then they have families. And so we didn't really want to add things to people's plates. And we also did not want to, you've heard this term probably way too much, we also didn't want to reinvent the wheel, because there are really great groups here, just like Virtual Pioneers. You guys have been fabulous for so long, and we always think of you whenever we think of that history thing. And so we didn't want to override anything that anyone was doing. We wanted to get together and bring us all together and become a good consortium, so to speak, of how we help each other, but not replace or try to replace each other. And so that's pretty much how it came to be. We decided that to keep people from being overwhelmed, we would just have 4 meetings a year. And so we still do that. We have a quarterly general meeting. We just had one last week, and it was this week, and it was really, really fun. And then we grew exponentially. I think we just were so common. Everybody was thinking the same thing, or lots of people were thinking the same thing. They were excited about getting to know who the educators are and working together to support each other, and then also to tackle some problems. So as we were I think we were having our second meeting, Midori Linden got in touch with us, or we were trying to get in touch with her, and she came, and we started working with Linden Labs, and she has been just phenomenal as well. But she had been trying to help Linden Labs concentrate a little more on education. And so it was just like the best of everybody's worlds just coming together. And so they were saying, we keep hearing that it's uncomfortable for instructors to bring their students in here if they look across the water and there's a zombie playground or something. So we wouldn't mind setting up a region and getting people moved into it. So that thought from Midori, and us being super excited about anything we could do to bring educators together, ended up with the Welcome Center that we're sitting at, and the Eduverse region, or reserve, we're calling it. And we've had lots of people move their islands in, and the labs were very nice to waive the fee, because they really did want to support education. And then recently, because we know that even though I slip and say Second Life a lot, but we really want to be virtual worlds, not just tied to Second Life, We've recently started a group in Kitely, and we are trying to get the word out with all kinds of other worlds. If people are interested, then they can certainly join us for this great effort. So that is basically our story. That is definitely our successes. And we just recently had a student challenge, and oh my gosh, it's just like everything else that's happened for us in the last, it's actually been 3 years. That's just shocking for me to say. We've just had a student challenge where it's very similar to a hackathon. We had 30 students from literally around the world. There was actually only two from the United States, and the students just did so much more than we could possibly have imagined, and learned a ton. We just talked to one just the other day, and Val and I were so excited. We just stopped everything we were doing and enjoyed that moment. So we do believe we're making a difference, and we hope that we're touching good people that also have similar goals for us.
Well, that was I got a lot out of that question, and I think that wrapped into the other question I wanted to, which is where the future is going. And I think you gave us a hint of where things are going, and that this community is vibrant and forward thinking. And it goes beyond just Second Life. So I think the pioneers among us will move forward. But I think for those of you out there that are listening to this, know that Becky Adams and I can kind of tag your co-chair here, Val, and that you two have really been leaders in getting things going. But what you've done is coalesce a group of people that can take it the next level. So there's so many people that come together, but you really kind of got the spark towards us. So we'll ask one fun question on our way out, and that is, what is your favorite virtual worlds viewer? I guess it doesn't really have to be Second Life, but what's your favorite viewer that you find the best that you use?
Well, it's so interesting because most of my friends do use Firestorm, and I've used it for a long, long time myself, but I do use the Second Life viewer, and part of the reason for that, or maybe most of the reason for that, is that um, my students, whenever they get their avatars, that's the viewer that's right in front of them, and they download, and also when they go around, and of course they're that same bumbling around avatar that I started out being. They more things, more signs, more directions, more help is out there for the Second Life viewer, or more consistent. I often see that the Firestorm viewer is there as well, and I'm so appreciative of that. But I don't want them to struggle. Most of the time, we have such a little amount of time to get them up to speed that the Second Life viewer has become my go-to. And then now there's another piece of that that's so helpful. So with our work with Midori, they now have a Second Life viewer that is not updated, except for 2 times a year during winter, our regular kind of holiday time, winter breaks, and then during the summer ones. So that's really important, especially for online educators, in my opinion, who often need for their students to go into a lab on campus in order to have the robustness of a good machine that they can, if they are, don't even have a computer, or if they have a very old one. So that really helps keep those technicians in those labs still speaking to us, and not having to have it updated all the time. So those are two reasons why the Second Life viewer is kind of my favorite.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being with us, Becky and Ellie. Keep up the great work. We will see you at VWEC, and we'll see you at the Virtual World's Best Practices in Education Conference coming up.
Thank you so much, Biff. It's been a pleasure.